Welcome to Roll, Ponder, and Play, a podcast dedicated to crafting stories through the application of role-playing game engines, combined with creative thinking and propelled into the ether by the barest of prompts. I'm Jared Hess, taking on all the roles of Game Master, Solo Player, Author, and Narrator. Come with me on a journey, and together let us explore realms of shadow, danger, and wonder. One role can decide the fate of many things. Welcome to Episode 8 of the Queen of Shadows podcast on Roll, Ponder, and Play. I'm Jared Hess, your friendly neighborhood game master, solo player, author, and narrator. In our previous episode, in the dead of night, Eilwen spots within the Wolf Fang Clan raiding party's encampment her father Cadfael and Frostbridge Chiefton Mabon in a wooden cage with some old women. She awakens Aron and they get a closer look. When they see that only one sentry is on duty, guarding the cage, she and Aron decide they won't get a better chance to rescue the two men. With Aron covering her with her own bow, she stealthily moves from boulder to boulder and approaches the camp with only her dagger. She uses the runic magic her mother Arwed taught her for the first time by herself to call upon the shadows to cloak her movements, and they come to her. But her magic betrays her, and instead of being cloaked in shadow, the shadows shift and change, and she is imbued with a ghostly sapphire light. She makes the best of it and pretends she is Shilvhana, Queen of Spears, a name and deity of her own creation, come down from heavens to secure new retainers. She uses the tale to get close to the half-drunk guard who initially believes her. But he's ambivalent about following her, and when it looks like he might call out an alarm, she clubs him over the head with his own spear and he crumples. She frees her father and Mabon without raising any alarm, but the captive women remain huddled within the cage, unwilling to leave, though the door is wide open. Eilwen and Aron with Cadfael and Mabon all retreat back to the southern side of Mt Hingworth to the mine entrance to make their way back through to Rockriver. As we begin this episode, Eilwen's stats are Edge 2, Heart 1, Iron 1, Shadow 3, Wits 2. Current assets, Archer, initial box, Cutthroat, initial box, Shadow Walk, initial box. Current statuses, Supply 2 out of 5, Spirit 5 out of 5, Health 5 out of 5, Momentum 7 out of 10, Current debilities none. And now on to episode 8 of Queen of Shadows. Behind them they could see the entrance, and though shrouded in a cloak of night and snow, it seemed bright compared to the dark tunnels that stretched and twisted away from them. Eilwen raised her flickering torch and stared down a dark chasm. Off to one side, beneath her, about 20 feet, it extended away into unknown regions. She kicked at a loose stone, and it fell for long seconds before it clattered onto hidden rocks far below. Her father bumped into her from behind, his face pale. "You came through these dark tunnels, eh?" She nodded. "Amazing how much earth they mined, isn't it?" "Aye, this place is riddled with passageways," he said. "Easy to get lost in. I don't like it." "Aron has the map," she said. "I'm sure we'll be fine." Cadfael grunted. "I've also heard men say that it's haunted." "Perhaps after a fashion," she said, and related the experience of the ancient bones of the strange creature they had seen. "I like it less even now," Cadfael muttered. Mabon and Aron caught up and looked around them. Aron consulted his map and pointed to a passageway. That way. We traversed it recently with little problem, Eilwen said. We'll be wary and keep our eyes open. Come on. She held her torch aloft, the flame sending flickering shadows dancing along the corridor's walls. As before, it's a troublesome journey. Normally, if you're making a return journey, you would probably just do an oracle roll instead of a full undertake a journey move. For this, however, I'm going to use the Ironsworn Delve supplement. This fantastic resource focuses on site exploration. And in my opinion, it's better suited for exploring or passing through dangerous sites. I'll also use its rules about returning to an explored site. Not that we've explored this mine completely, of course, but we have passed through it once already, and as far as we are concerned, we have explored the route we took, and our goal is to just get back through to the Rockriver side. I'm going to use the Discover a Site move and Delve the Depths. So the rulebook says, Discover a Site. When you resolve to enter a perilous site in pursuit of an objective, choose the theme and domain which best represent its nature. Ask the oracle if unsure, and give it a rank. So troublesome, dangerous, formidable, extreme, epic. If you are returning to a previously explored site, roll both challenge dice, take the lowest value, and clear the number of progress boxes. So that's what we are doing. We had 9 out of 10 progress when we were here before. How this works is, if you come back to a site you visited, you might not lose all the exploration gains you made before. So we roll 2 dice and discard the highest roll. So I'm rolling 2d10. I rolled a 1 and a 3. So we discard the highest, the 4, and we keep the 1. The 1 is how many progress boxes we remove. Had I rolled a 10 and a 9, for example, we would have discarded the 10 and removed 9 progress, making the journey through the mines that much harder. Thankfully, we only lose 1 progress box and end up with 8 out of 10 boxes filled, which does make sense really given how recently we've been through this site and that we still have access to a map. So technically, I could probably just do the Locate Your Objective move now in the Delve book and compare my 8 progress against the challenge dice and get back to Rockriver without doing much delving. But I want to try and get it up to 10, and in so doing, try out the supplement a little. Maybe nothing much will happen, but that's why we play. Okay, so here's the Delve the Depths move. We're rolling plus wits, and I rolled a 1 on the action dice, plus 2 for my wits, against a 5 and 1 on the challenge dice for a weak hit. On a weak hit, it says to roll on the following table according to your stat. So we were using wits, and I rolled a 40, and that says we mark progress and reveal a danger. So we are at 10 out of 10 on our Delve the Depths, but there's a complication, a danger, and I'll roll on the Reveal a Danger move to see what we get. So Reveal a Danger in the Delve book, when you encounter a risky situation within a site, envision the danger or roll on the following table. So I'm rolling on the following table, and I rolled a 20, which is check the theme card. And checking that, I get Ancient Evil Resurgent. And now the features, 93, something unusual or unexpected. I rolled on the aspect and feature oracles as well, and I got a 95 and a 4. That's deadly and threshold. So, not a boring journey after all. After navigating the rope bridge again and several hours more of trudging through the oppressive dark, they came again to the dark lake and the strange ancient skeleton that she and Aron had seen on their first journey through these dark passages. She spent a few moments showing it to her father and Mabon, both of whom sank down to the ground, breathing hard when they stopped. Both father and Mabon commented that they had never seen its like. They were about to move on when her father approached, his pale face, sweat and dust rimed in the orange light of her flickering torch. The bruises on his face were dark splotches in the gloom. "I need to rest, lass," Cadfael said, trying to hide a limp that was growing worse. Mabon and me both. We haven't eaten much or slept much since they captured us. I suggest we make camp and move on in the morning. Whenever that is," he muttered. Mabon heaved a ragged breath. Rest, stars, but we need rest." Eilwen nodded. "Just a little further then, until we can find a place to set up camp." She led the way through the huge underground cavern, and they slowly began making their way around the lake's edge. "Do they find any kind of wood to give them light through the night if they do camp?" 50-50 chance, I'll say. Yes, and. They found several old boats on the rocks near the underground lake. Most of the boats had large holes in them, but the wood on them, that had once been rotted, was now bone dry and would burn easily. But one boat, large enough for 3 people, under a thick layer of half-rotted canvas, lay in relatively good condition. It even had some oars. Eilwen held up her torch to better see her find, when in the distance, out on the lake, she caught a glint of something reflecting her light. She listened. No sounds, other than the others setting up camp, not even a ripple in the water. What caused that reflection? Some kind of mirror? Or maybe something metallic out there? "I think there's something out there," she told Aron. "Go ahead and set up camp. I'm going to check it out." "I'll come with you," he said, setting down his pack. "You don't have to. I'm perfectly fine going I'm coming. Father can set up camp." Cadfael nodded and waved them off and started to build a fire, whistling his familiar tune. As they shoved off, torches in hand, a large fire crackled merrily behind them. "Feels almost like the old days," Aron said, pulling on the oars. "When we'd go hunting and fishing with Father. Before Mother died." Eilwen nodded and thought of her mother and father dancing in the firelight, and of the iron pillars in the green grip, the runes on the pillar, the matching runes on the iron disc in Mother's box. She felt troubled. Father's firelight on shore seemed a beacon of hope on the black mirrored water over which they glided, a beacon that diminished with every pull of the oars. Her reflection rippled in the water as she drew her oar through it and propelled themselves towards whatever reflected their light. After a good distance, a shape resolved out of the darkness. It appeared to be a massive iron archway, tilted askew at maybe a 45-degree angle, but jutting out of the lake. "What is it?" Aron muttered darkly. "I don't know," she said, curious, but feeling a kind of nameless dread that began to creep upon her as they drew closer. There they were, more angular runes carved into the iron plating. "Let's get closer. I want a closer look." "Is that a good idea?" He frowned at the arch that seemed to be floating towards them. "There's something about this that I don't like." Eilwen glanced at her brother, wondering how much she should tell him. But maybe he needed to know. "Do you remember that sack I had?" Eilwen said, her voice a whisper. "Back home? The one I said that Mother gave me when we left to find Father? Well, in it are some circular plates made of iron. Not just any iron, but black iron. Same as this archway. And those plates had markings like those on this pillar. I think I can read them. It might give us some clues about Mother and those ruins I saw in the green grip." "You didn't tell me about these plates earlier," he accused. "It didn't seem the right time," she said in a small voice. "What do they say?" he asked. "The circular plates of iron." "I only know a few of the things. I think it teaches how to wield magic. But I've only ever seen Mother use the discs. She taught me from them for many years. We didn't get all the way through it, though. But things like that glowing light thing I did, well, that was an accident. But anyway, she taught me the symbols, but I've never read them myself." The boat bumped gently into the iron structure. "Hold the boat steady. I need to see those writings." "I still don't like this," he muttered. But he touched the iron base and held the boat steady. "Mother and her strange arts, and now you. Let's get this over with quickly." She nodded and clambered out of the boat. It rocked as she left it. Aron steadied it, and then passed her another torch. She lit it. Holding 2 torches, one in each hand, she studied the strange tilted archway and the runes up and down its surface. The surface that she stood upon was easily large enough for 3 to stand abreast. "Who put this archway in the middle of the lake in a mine?" Aron called up, holding his own torch aloft, studying the base of the angled iron surface. "What purpose would that serve?" "Maybe they didn't," she said, walking up the slanted side. "Maybe the lake formed around it. Maybe the mountain itself, for all we know." He gave a low whistle. "You think it's really that old? How long has it sat here?" "I don't know." She tracked her finger over a rune, feeling its hard edges on her skin. "But the metal feels ancient." "But what is it for?" "Can Eilwen read the runes?" "I think there's a 50-50 chance that she can." And the oracle agrees with a yes. She just shook her head. "I'm not sure, but I think I can read this, Aron." Excited, she jammed one torch into a tight angle where 2 iron surfaces met. Then she leaned forward, placing one hand on the runes. What she read didn't get translated as words, but as her hand moved over the runes, rough images formed in her mind, like reflections on the black lake surface rippling into view, old and misty with time. She saw a powerful entity, a figure cowled in black robes that were crafted of burned and blackened skins. Tall and lean, its eyes burned within its cowl with twisted and green malevolence. It stood atop a massive pile of bones. Nothing was visible within its hooded cowl save those eyes. Its hands were wrapped in strands of white cloth, hands that stretched forth with hateful intent. Twin blades of bone jutted from its arms, severing and stealing life. A river of blood and bone mounds were heaped up to its dark glory. An archway of iron runes of power were constructed to bind and entrap. A plot to ensnare succeeded, and the entity was imprisoned. A hollow scream pierced the night. Images conveyed a passing of eons. Dust grew thicker on the cavern floor. Cracks had formed in the stone under the arch, but the archway remained seemingly untouched by time. A death cult, some in armor, sought to bring the thing back. Chanting and strange mystic energies filled the air. The runes on the archway glowed blood red, and a line split vertically down the archway. A door, but not a physical door, but one made of some power, began to open. Other warriors burst forth out of the ground then, guardians of some sort, bearing the device of an eye on their shields. The wakeful watchers. A battle ensued around the archway. Blood was spilt, and bodies broken. Powerful magics went awry and ruptured the cavern floor. The very fountains of the earth burst forth in rushing columns of black water that sent combatants from both sides into a dark and watery grave. A dark, shadowy hand tried to pierce the barrier. It stretched and tore at it as if trying to push through a dark, filmy sack. The barrier grew stronger with each heartbeat. The thing's face reformed. It tried to stride through the veil. Its shadowed hands grasped and tore again and again in desperation. Its arm blades raised and slashed, but it could make no purchase. A power beyond even it reared up and flung it backwards, and the thing screamed, flailing and falling beyond the threshold of the archway, plummeting out of sight like a millstone cast into a dark well. Some invisible power within the arch closed a door, as it were, solidifying the film into a barrier that was iron hard. A barrier that existed across both time and space and locked the foul thing within its dark prison. An after-echo of baleful, frantic rage racked her mind. Then, silence. "Eilwen, are you okay?" Hands shook her, and with a gasp, she released the iron and yanked out her hunting knife, bringing it to the throat of the one who held her fast. It's me." Aron stood by her, his torch inches from her face. The boat behind him had been pulled up on the incline a few feet. His eyes flicked from her eyes to her knife. "It's me. You were moaning and... Aron, She swallowed. How long had she been there? Her first torch seemed halfway burned out. "What happened?" Aron asked. "I saw things. Images, a vision. I don't know. Something terrible is trapped within that archway." Then let's get away from it." I'm going to say she has to face danger versus what she just saw. She rolled a 5 on the action dice and gets a +1 with her heart against the challenge dice of 3 and an 8. So that is a weak hit. She succeeds but faces a troublesome cost. She loses the one spirit and feels afraid. She nodded, felt her heart racing like a deer bounding down a snowy slope. Her hands were trembling. "Yes," she swallowed. "Yes, we need to get away." She put away her dagger and grabbed the other torch from where she had placed it, and they began to move back down the slanted slope toward the boat, Aron ahead of her. Did her touching the pillar activate anything? I think there's a 50-50 chance, and the oracle says yes. Is it a guardian? I think that is somewhat likely, but on a roll of the 4, the oracle says no, but... So, not a guardian then. I was assuming that a guardian would probably have been protecting this arch from any disturbance, from anyone touching or interfering with the device's intended purpose of imprisoning that being. But the oracle says no. So instead, I think the being trapped inside has sensed Eilwen touching the device, and it screamed from wherever it is. The device's magic has probably slowly been draining all these years, so I think the entity inside can affect things on a limited basis around the archway. I'll say a jolt of mystic energy awakens, perhaps momentarily, perhaps longer, something long sleeping in the waters. Is it bone walkers? I think that's somewhat likely. Let's see what the oracle says. Yes, and... Okay, some things then, so plural. There's more than one that awakens. If it were just Eilwen and one of these, it'd be a dangerous encounter. An additional bone walker against her would increase the challenge rating to formidable, but since she has help of her own in the form of Aron and maybe Cadfael and Mabon, I'll say this still remains a dangerous encounter, even though there's more than just one of these things. Can any bone walkers reach Eilwen and Aron from the lake? I'll say somewhat unlikely, as they'd have to climb up the slick base of the tilted archway or swim up, which would be difficult, especially given that many of them wore heavy armor. So I'm setting that as somewhat unlikely. On a roll of an 8, the oracle says yes, that they can reach them. Okay. They started to move down the steep incline towards the boat, Aron first, Eilwen following behind. Ahead of them and to the right, they heard a sudden splashing in the water, and something half-clawed, half-leaped, and half-skittered its way up onto the incline near the boat, dripping muck and silt. Water dripped from empty eye sockets, muck dripped from clawed, bony hands. The head, an elongated skull with narrow eye holes, turned and regarded them, and the mouth opened. Stale, dark muck and water poured out, dribbling down onto its rusted breastplate. Eilwen screamed. So this is their very first encounter with what the book terms a horror. Some storytellers swear that they've seen such things in their explorations in the dark places of the Ironlands, but this is the first time they've seen one with their very own eyes. It's raw and mind-numbing in its implications, as these are Firetail legends come to life. So I'm going to say she has to roll a face danger against heart to keep her courage. And she rolls a 2 on the action dice with a +1 from her heart is a 3 against a 2 and a 9 on the challenge dice for a weak hit. So she holds it together but is still frightened. Her spirit drops by 1. She's now down to 2 out of 5 spirit. Eilwen's arms shook and she wanted to just run, but to where? The creature started to advance towards them, clawing and slipping, falling but righting itself as it tried to climb the wet, slick surface. Okay, combat time. I don't think they can win this fight, so I'll be looking for a way that they can withdraw as soon as possible. But we need to do the enter the fray move first because they are being attacked. Okay, when you enter the fray, set the rank of each of your foes. So we are setting this as a dangerous foe, as I already said. Then roll to determine who is in control at the start of the fight. If you are facing off against your foe, roll plus heart. If you're moving into position against an unaware foe or striking without warning, roll plus shadow. Or if you're ambushed, roll plus wits. And she's going to roll plus wits because they kind of leapt out of the water, surprised them, and they were ambushed. So a 5 on the action dice and +2 for the wits against a 7 and an 8. Boo, not good. That is a miss. I'll say Aron is parted from an item. Pay the price for the face danger on the enter the fray move. Gods preserve us, Aron moaned, dropping his torch from numb and trembling fingers. He pulled out his axe and shield as his torch rolled down the incline and hissed into the wet lake, extinguished. Darkness threatened to consume them, only held at bay with Eilwen behind him, holding aloft their 2 remaining torches, 1 in each hand. The thing rushed towards Aron, flicking its wrists, and twin bone blades shot out of its forearms, locking into place, spraying murky water towards him. Then it attacked. Aron yelped and managed to partially get his shield up. The bone blade skittered up the shield and bit into his forehead, a glancing blow. But blood began to stream down one side of his face, and Eilwen heard her brother emit a savage curse. A second creature leaped up behind the first, its jaws clacking, muddy water pouring off of him. The second horror bore no armor, but the remnants of some tattered robes. It flicked its own wrists, and more blades locked into place. Seeing Aron engaged, it moved past him towards Eilwen. "Eilwen," he yelled, "get to the boat! You need to get out of here!" The slanted iron slope that they stood upon made for precarious footing when dry. It became worse when these horrors kicked up water with them. The second creature also slipped a few times as it clambered up to engage Eilwen. But once it gained its feet, it moved quickly and with grace. She felt useless holding the 2 torches, but she knew they needed light. But this was not the place to make a stand. They had to get back to shore. The bone creature came closer. Then it leaped at her, and she fell on her rump, trying to slide under it. So this is a face danger move to avoid getting hit. She rolls a 5 on the action dice, which is quite good, +2 for her edge, against a 5 and a 9 on the action dice. So that is a weak hit. On a weak hit, you succeed but face a troublesome cost. Choose 1. She will choose to sacrifice resources and suffer -1 supply. The thing leaped over her as she slid down the steep incline. She hit the boat with her feet, and it started to drift out into the water. She leaped heavily into it, barely keeping both torches out of the water. The boat rocked precariously, and a wave of black water rushed over one end, soaking a small bundle of supplies she had brought with them. Aron tries to bash one of them to push past it and get down to the boat without getting hit himself. Can he do that? I think that is somewhat likely. So he gets a yes, and Eilwen shoved her torches into holders on the boat, evidently made for that purpose. "Aron, come on," she screamed. With a shout, Aron smashed his shield into the creature in front of him, and it careened backwards, bone arms flailing, splashing into the water. Then Aron ducked a blow from behind, the bone blade whistling over his head, and he slid down after her, landing heavily in the boat. It rocked even further, and more water came in over the edge, but his momentum pushed the boat away from the archway. They saw water swirling where he had knocked one creature off. As soon as Aron was in, Eilwen pulled against the oars. The boat still rocked wildly, and Aron spread out, his arms holding the sides, steadying the boat. Just then the creature on the archway surface, his feet clicking on the iron, ran and leaped at them, its right arm blade poised for a thrust. "Look out!" Aron yelled, and Eilwen pulled at the oars with all her might. So this is a face danger roll, and I'm going to say she has to use iron because she's trying to use her strength to pull the boat out of the way so the thing doesn't land in the boat. So she only has 1 on iron, and the action dice is a 6. So a 7 against a 8 and a 6 on the challenge dice is only a weak hit. So the troublesome cost that she will choose is going to lose 1 harm. She strained her muscles and groaned, but pulled the boat away from the dropping creature. One leg of the creature hit the edge of the boat, and it snapped off as the rest of its bony, angular mass splashed into the water. She tasted vile lake water as a small wave splashed into her face, and the boat rocked again. Aron steadied it, and they pulled away. She saw swirling water where the thing was probably madly trying to claw its way up to the surface again. She didn't intend to stick around, and she pulled hard again, and the boat slowly pulled away from the arch, until eventually the arch was lost in the darkness. She aimed towards the fire that still shone on the shore. Aron helped her row, and together they pulled against the darkness. "What of Father?" Aron asked, breathing hard as his muscular arms pulled at his oar. Blood streaked his face and stained his blonde beard from the pulsing head wound still oozing thick blood. Eilwen couldn't talk and only shook her head and kept pulling, her eyes wide from what she had witnessed. Her heart continued to beat madly in her chest. Heralds beneath, what were those? She thought. But she knew. The stories called them bone walkers. She thought they were just tales to frighten small children into obedience, or to send a thrill in the dark night when camping with family and friends. But now, what other tales were more than just mere stories? What other horrific legends had come bursting to unholy life? Her throat felt parched. She could easily have taken a drink. All that water around her, water everywhere, black and cold and lifeless. But she would not drink. She alone knew what lay rotting in the moldering heaps on the lake bed. When the boat ground ashore, she leaped out, and then helped Aron pull it in. Then they both scanned the water, their weapons out. Aron bore his axe and shield, Eilwen her bow. Were Father and Mabon attacked on the shore? I think that is unlikely given the distance of the shore from where this archway was. And I rolled a 3 on the oracle, and it agrees with me and says no. "What happened?" Father rushed up to them, his spear at the ready. "We heard shouting in the distance." Bone walkers." "Bone, really? Children tales and—" "No, Father." She turned on him. "They are real as you are. We both saw them with our own eyes, and they're coming for us. You think Aron decided it'd be fun to cut his own head just to fabricate children's tales?" "She speaks the truth, Father. They are coming," Aron said, blood drying on his face, his voice a low rasp from his fatigue. "We have to get out, now," Eilwen said grimly. "Aye," Cadfael said, sucking in an anxious breath. "I see it in your eyes. Heralds beneath, what a place." "Mabon," he shouted, "we're leaving. Danger." They hurriedly began to gather what they could, while she and Aron stood guard, weapons ready. So Eilwen took 1 harm from her ordeal pulling the oars. This isn't combat damage or anything. I'm just ruling it's from general tiredness and exhaustion. She'll roll the Endure Harm move. When you face physical damage, suffer health, minus health, equal to your foe's rank or as appropriate to the situation. If your health is 0, suffer minus momentum, equal to any remaining health. Then roll plus health or plus iron, whichever is higher. So she rolls a 4 on the action dice and is rolling plus 4 health for an 8 against 5 and 4 on the challenge dice for a strong hit. On a strong hit, choose 1, shake it off. If your health is greater than 0, suffer minus 1 momentum in exchange for plus 1 health, or embrace the pain, take plus 1 momentum. She will exchange 1 momentum, bringing her momentum down to 3 out of 10, to regain her health back up to 5. She felt suddenly very tired, and she leaned against one of the boats they had dragged near the fire. She forced her heart to calm, breathing deeply. She didn't think her bow would be of much use against bones that walked and jumped and attacked and stared at you with dark holes for eyes and forearm blades that... Stars. What dark power could do that? How could they see her without any eyes? It unnerved her that there were such things in the world that she couldn't fight. Though upon further reflection, why should it? The weather was one such thing. It was dangerous, and you respected it and lived with it. And the weather doesn't try to kill me, she muttered to herself. It's just nature. This is different. It's against nature. Eilwen? Aron asked. He gave her a searching look, still holding his weapons. Are you well? Well enough, she said darkly in a low voice. Do you want to talk about it? No, she said quietly. Very well, he nodded. Do they get away? I mean, they kind of already did with their 2 face danger moves to avoid combat. So really the question is, can they gather their supplies before the creatures attack them again? I'll say it's probably likely, given that the undead creatures are moving underwater, and that would take considerable time. So let's see. And I get a yes, but... Just as they left the cavern, in the light of the fire they had left burning, they saw bony shapes crawl out onto the shore, dripping dark water, moving in graceful crouches, eyeless heads scanning the darkness. They haven't seen us, Eilwen said, pulling back behind a bend in the passageway that continued the route to the Rockriver side of the mine. But they might come this way. Best to keep moving and push through to Rockriver, she said. Sorry, Father, I know you wanted to rest. Not so much anymore, lass, he grunted, his limp still evident, though he did get a small rest. His voice was troubled and low. Not after seeing children's nightmares crawl up out of the lake. She had no desire to rest either. Her heart pounded inside of her chest, still at the very thought of those creatures. What were they? And what could make dead bones come to life? The palpable darkness mocked her with its silence, and they pressed on with as much speed as they could dare towards the exit. Thank you for joining us, and I sincerely hope you enjoyed what you experienced. If you would like to support Roll, Ponder, and Play, you can do so by joining my Patreon at patreon.com/Roll, Ponder, and Play. There you can also find transcripts, show notes, and other projects I'm involved in. If you would like to reach out to me, you can find me on Patreon or on Discord at Roll, Ponder, and Play, or by email at rollponderandplay@gmail.com. until we meet again, may your own dice rolls ever bring you success.